Velkommen alle sammen. Today we're continuing the series of what the Norse gods actually represent. I've already spoken about a couple of other Thor's children that he has had with the earth goddess Siv, but Thor was a bit of a dog. He had two children with the giantess Jernsaxa, and those two were Magni and Móði, his sons. So of course all these stories are just symbolic, but today we're going to look over what Magni and Móði represent. Translation first, as usual. Móði is translated from Old Norse to mean wrath, angry one, or sometimes courage. Compare that to modern Norwegian mot or modig. Then we have Magni, translated as mighty or sometimes the strong one. So of course when the gods have such clear translations like this, it's very easy to see what they represent. Obviously the sons of Thor represent might and courage and strength, but how does that all tie into the Attestations? Well, here we go. Neither of them are mentioned very often in the old sources. The only time they come up in the elder and more reliable Poetic Edda is in Vafthrudnismal. Vignir, as you can see here, that's another name for Thor. So of course this is a stanza about Ragnarök, the Armageddon in the Norse beliefs. And Móði and Magni survive Ragnarök and they take Mjolnir after their father Thor dies. There are no other real mentions of them in other Eddic poems other than being listed as kennings or metaphors for Thor. So on to the later and remember less reliable prose Edda. So this is confirmed in the prose Edda that Magni and Móði are Thor's sons and that their mother is the giantess Jernsaxa. And not much else in the prose Edda about them either, except one story in Skaldskaparmal. When Thor battles the giant Hrungnir, he smashed his skull into breadcrumbs, and when Hrungnir fell, one of his legs fell on Thor's neck and he couldn't get up. So Thor's assistant Thjalfi tried, but he could not lift the leg. Then all the gods came in and they couldn't lift it altogether either. But Thor's son Magni comes along, who is only 3 nights old at the time, and he is able to lift Hrungnir off Thor and get him up. Thor thanks his son and says that he will surely become great. And then Thor gave his son the horse Gullfaxi, which Odin did not really appreciate, as you can see here. So that's all for the Attestations. On to the theories. So the scholars know two things basically. Thor's sons are personifications of some of Thor's characteristics. So of course Móði and Magni represent strength and courage. But how does this fit into the 3 traits that we know about them? Well, first, go watch Thor, because this is not going to make any sense. I did a video on Thor, all of the theories about what he represents. He's kind of the life force, the electromagnetic field of the earth, and the aura of us humans, and also, of course, the thunder and storm, and they're all kind of tied together. But watch Thor, this isn't going to make much sense unless you've seen that. But so we have 3 basically characteristics of Móði and Magni, and that is that they are the son of Thor and Jernsaxa. That has to be explained, and then helping Thor lift Hrungnir's leg off of his neck, and then that they are survivors of Ragnarök. So I did a video about Thor's wife Siv. She represents the earth. Their kids that Siv has, those are things that kind of come out of the soil. Þrúðr and Ullr. I did videos on those too, you can check out. Thor's side piece, however, is Jernsaxa, who is the mother to Móði and Magni. So in the myths, giants are said to be certain devouring forces in nature. That's actually what their name means. But giantesses are something different. They are not even related to the giants, really. They're not even called by Jotun or Thurs. They're actually referred to as Gigja. So female giantesses are very different than male giants, and they're always associated with some sort of intangible positive things, actually, most of the time. I'll do a video on Jernsaxa specifically, but for now, just remember that giantesses usually represent some kind of very positive intangible force that can pair with gods and even humans sometimes in order to bring sacred gifts, spiritual gains, power, wisdom, things like that. And this is what the sacred marriage is that we read about in so many of our myths. This has been confirmed. This is not my theory. I'm just kind of developing this onto Móði and Magni. But again, I have not found any theories about Móði and Magni. So let me know what you guys think. These are just my thoughts, what I'm about to tell you right now. When you take Thor, who is again the electromagnetic field, the protective barrier in our bodies and the earth and all living things, the aura around us, also the life force, combine that with a sacred union with a giantess and you get some very special gifts. And this is what Móði and Magni are: courage and might and strength. Now, important to remember, we humans did not always have courage and might, did we? Some even today don't, but most of us do, and this was developed in our evolution. Look, the most primitive animals, their main goal is survival. They have no courage. Even the most powerful animals like a lion or a bear, they don't have the courage usually to take on something more powerful than them. As a matter of fact, they do the exact opposite. They will always 100% of the time go to the prey that is the youngest or sick or weak, because there is less risk in that situation. We humans at one point were also like this, but eventually something very interesting happened and we start to develop courage. And this happens at the very start of a mammal's evolution. Could be something as simple as a mother's protective instinct, taking on any foe to protect her young. Reptiles don't have this trait, by the way. It's only found in the mammal's cortex of the brain when that develops. And this happened to humans too, but it was very, very early in our history. At more advanced stages, humans and mammals, now they start to show courage and might. Humans start to take risk, and they do really dumb things actually for some sort of benefit that really doesn't outweigh the risks most of the time. This is called courage and might. This is this energy that we all developed. So at some point, this is why Móði and Magni were there in one of the oldest myths. At some point in human or even animal history, these sacred energies, that is Thor and Jarnsaksa, come together, and within that union, that is born courage and strength and might. That's the first part kind of explained there. Second we can speak about is the battle with Þrúðr. Now, Þrúðr I'll do a video on, but most of the scholars are pretty sure that this giant means some kind of very ancient natural disaster, a volcanic eruption, possibly a meteor or a comet. That's what I believe, that's what makes the most sense. Thor is the life force, the electromagnetic field and the aura of the earth. It fights Þrúðr, the comet coming in, and then he destroys it, smashes it into breadcrumbs. But there is still a problem. Thor gets trapped under Þrúðr, just like the earth, and all living things in the life would be covered in particles and harmful toxins from when a comet would hit or a volcanic eruption. Everything on earth would struggle to grow, the soil would be poisoned, the sun would be black, and the air would be toxic. All living things would be in trouble, our life force and our aura would be very, very low in all living things. Hence why Thor, the life force, is trapped under the giant, and none of the other sacred energies that are the gods can get him free. The only one able to get Thor free is Magni, which represents our might. It's humans and their ability to struggle and use this energy that is our might to persist and get through even when everything around us is not dying. Again, this could be a bad volcano eruption or a comet. Either way, it's pretty clear to me, but let me know what you think. That's what I believe at least. Then we have the third, explaining Móði and Magni surviving Ragnarök. Now, Ragnarök, there's a few theories I'll do another video on. Some historians have said that too is a natural disaster, specifically one that kicked off the migration period. Some have suggested that it's climate change or the coming of a new era in certain time in history, Bronze Age to Iron Age, for example. Others have suggested it's simply representative of the winter coming each year. I'll do another video on it, like I said, but for me, I believe Ragnarök represents an ice age, when a big temperature drop happens and our lands in the north are covered with ice for 100,000 years or more. Again, this comes in cycles, and it can also be viewed similar to what happened with Þrúðr, except instead of a volcanic ash covering our lands, it's ice. This is what Ragnarök could be. Same effect. Everything dies. All the gods die, plants and nature dies. The only thing that is able to survive are humans who are able to use their last bit of courage and might to migrate further south to a place where there is at least not that much ice, and then go back to the days of hunting woolly mammoth and fighting off saber-toothed tigers. But that, if my Ice Age Ragnarök theory is true, but if it's not, and the Ragnarök is something else, it's still, a disaster for our world. Most of the scholars have agreed on that, and the theory still fits with Móði and Magni. Almost everything dies. The only ones who survive are Móði and Magni, of course, and a handful of other gods, which you see here, which there are all pretty clear explanations of. Honestly, I'll do videos on all of these. And they're all, representative of certain parts of nature or sacred energies, and even energies in our own selves. Magni and Móði, our might and bravery being among the most important, because they are what enables us as a people to survive past any struggle and disaster that the world has given us. This has happened many times before. So those are my thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. That's how we discover the lost beliefs of our people, by putting our brains together. I'm just here to present the sources and give some ideas. And I will do videos on these other survivors of Ragnarök pretty soon, but that's all for today. Vi ses nästa gång.